Today's Thursday, May 4th, and this is a meeting of the Concord Middle School Building Committee. I'm going to call roll. Alexa Anderson.
Good morning.
Good morning, Court Booth.
Present.
Thank you, Court. Heather, about.
Good morning.
Good morning. Frank Cannon's not with us today. I received an email he would miss today, so no Frank. Justin Cameron.
Good morning.
Good morning. Bob Conry.
He's handling our issue, so.
Oh, okay. We'll forgive him. Gail Dowd.
Here, thank you.
Good morning, Gail. Peter Fischelis.
Present.
Hi, Peter. Don Barello, obviously I'm here. Russ Hughes. No, Russ. No fun. Let me know if I'm missing someone in there here. I just can't hear him. Okay, no Russ. Lori Hunter.
Good morning.
Good morning. Mark Howell.
Hi.
Hi. Mark's a new name, and I'll intro him in a second. But welcome, Mark. Carrie LaFleur.
Morning.
Good morning, Pat Nelson.
Morning.
Hi, Pat. Chris Popoff.
Present.
Good morning, Charlie Parker.
Here.
Good morning, Charlie. Matt Root.
I see him.
Yeah, he's in DC. He shot me an email this morning that he'd have to step off early, but if you see him, then we'll call him present. Eric Sims. Eric Sims?
Present.
Hi, Eric. Steve Sashevsky.
He's waving.
Oh, hey, Steve. Very good. All right. So our first order of business, approval of meeting minutes. It's been a while, basically this whole year. So we've got January 13th, January 26th, February 14th, March 2nd. So that's a good majority of this calendar year. Has everyone had a chance to look at those? Does anyone have any edits to any of those?
Yeah, Dawn, I just want to get the dates right. I have that we met on the 12th, January 12th, not January 13th. Did I have that wrong? And I think I was at that meeting because I'm looking at my notes from that meeting where we talked about the 90% CD estimates and so forth at AM Fogarty.
No, we met on the 13th.
It was the 13th?
We did have a
Was
Friday
this
meeting.
Friday morning.
That was the
weird.
Friday morning. Okay.
Yeah, we had an off because of when things came in. I think we had a random Friday. Yeah.
Okay.
But were you there, Chris? I don't remember.
Well, if it was a Friday, I may not have been there. That's probably accurate.
Okay.
Why I have the 12th, who knows? Maybe I just, anyway. Okay, no sweat.
It's possible there was a placeholder that got moved. I don't remember this.
Doesn't matter. Cool.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you for that, Chris. Anyone else have anything? Any edits, any changes, any comments? No? All right. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve them then?
I move to approve the minutes of that you mentioned.
January 13th, 26th, February 14th, and March 2nd. Is that right, Alexa?
Yep.
All right, awesome, thank you. So we have a motion, any second?
Sure, I'll
This is
second.
Matt Root. Second.
Okay.
Matt
Let's
Root
give
can
it to
second.
Matt. Yeah, let's give it to Matt. Hey, Matt. Okay, so I'm gonna call roll because I think we have some folks that maybe need to abstain. Alexa, how do you vote?
Yes to approve.
Okay, thank you, Court.
Aye.
Thank you, Heather.
Yes.
All right, wait, Justin's not voting. Sorry, let me get Peter Fischelis.
Yes.
Thank you. Don Gorilla, I'm a yes. Lori Hunter.
Yes.
Mark Howell, I'll give you the chance to abstain.
Yeah, I'll abstain, thanks.
You're welcome. Pat Nelson.
Yes.
Thank you. Chris Popoff.
I'll abstain from the 13th, yes to the others.
Very good. Charlie Parker.
Yes.
Matt Root.
Yes.
Thank you. And did Steve join us? Was Steve here? I can't remember. Yes. Hey, Steve.
Yes and yes.
All right. Oh, hey, there you are. All right. Very good. Those have been approved. So we'll move on to correspondence. Heather, have you?
Hey there.
Hey, how are you?
Okay.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to believe it's been 2 months since we've all been here. We still, in that time, we only had 5 emails come in. One was actually asking about our communications and email this process from another district. 2 were either contractors or service people interested in potentially working with us. One was from a youth soccer coach asking about field usage. And one was about, and this is a good thing to point out, one was about the bid results and making sure they're posted and everything. And of course, our info, once we go through it today, will be posted on our website. So that was all pretty quick. And do you want me to go right into communications?
Sure, usually those go hand in hand. Thank you.
Yes. So communications, obviously in the past couple months, we haven't been sending out much because there hasn't been much to update on. The little bit that we did send out was actually on behalf of the Light Board. They asked us to communicate about their forum for them. And I'm sure everybody saw, but we were very clear that this was their forum, not ours. We want to make sure that those delineations are clear between our project and their project. So whenever we send out on their behalf, we try to clarify this is their project and we're just helping them get the word out. Other than that, the next thing that will be a fun public announcement is the groundbreaking coming up. I hope everybody here is planning on going. Very exciting.
Yay.
So that is coming up on May 17th, Wednesday evening at 6 o'clock at CMS. We will also be sending out, we'll be sending this out again to our list and some personal invitations to the Select Board and Finance Committee and some important people like that who have helped us along the way. And then other than that, obviously, after we go through all the information today, we will be sending out a building committee report as quickly as possible with the information on bids and hopefully contractors and everything that we do today and updating on social media as well. So that's it, pretty quick, I think.
Heather, by CMS, we mean Sanborn, do we not?
Sorry, yes, at
Yeah.
Sanborn, the groundbreaking. Figure we should do it on the site where we're going to build the school.
Right,
Thank
sure.
you for clarifying,
you.
Court. Yes, the groundbreaking is Wednesday, the 17th at Sanborn, 6 p.m.
Justin, not to put
And
you on the.
let me just
Sorry,
share
Heather.
huge thanks to Justin for putting this all together because I know he's been pulling this together and it's
I was just going to give him a second if he wanted to give a
much
quick.
appreciated.
Yeah, can you guys still hear me? No?
Yeah.
Okay, Justin, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you want to say a couple words about what you have planned? I maybe know a little bit more than others. It's exciting.
Sure. And thank you for the opportunity. It's been fun to engage in what is a fun aspect of the project, of course. So Lori and I have been working together to bring together an event that will probably just, 35 minutes or so. I know both chairs are going to be speaking. We do have about 100 chairs, especially for those in the community that might need to sit for that 30 minutes or so. And then we have a modest stage sound system. Both chairs have agreed to speak. I believe Dr. Hunter is going to be introducing. And then, we want students to be a center of this event. So we have a student building committee that is coming together. They will be at the groundbreaking. And we also have our 6th grade chorus, which, if the project goes accordingly, should be the 1st grade that graduates from the new Concord Middle School building. So our 6th grade chorus will be performing one song as well. I think that's pretty much it. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's exciting. Fingers crossed for good weather. Those are the things I think about, but
Yeah,
yeah,
that is great.
so invite your friends, family, everyone, and it'll be great. So looking forward to that in a few weeks. Thank you, Justin, and thank you, Heather. Very good. So mark your calendars too. All right, next we'll go into the OPM update, which is what everyone is excited to hear, I'm sure. We did communicate via email the bid results last Friday. In the interest of time and town meeting and other articles that were out there, that's not how we like to share information because usually there's more to it, but it's worth noting that we needed to share that ahead of, some other articles that were coming in front of the town on Sunday. So I also want to point out, and apologies, because I wasn't there, my husband was representing my family because we had a million things going on that day at town meeting, but the solar article passed, correct? That was my understanding. So that's exciting for this project because they're intertwined in a lot of ways. But just want to say, thanks to the town for making this a very sustainable project in conjunction with what we're doing with the building. So anyway, OPM update. You want to take it away?
Great, thank you, Dawn.
Dan? Yep.
So we've got two main things we want to cover. We want to give you guys a financial update like we typically do at every meeting and then go through the bid results. So I will breeze through the financial update so we can get to the main business here. So let me share my screen and we'll go from there.
While you're doing that, Ian, Mark, apologies. I said I was going to introduce you and I'm just realizing I never did. Oh my God, my brain. Is it Friday yet? Mark Howell is our newest select board representative. We thank Johnson for all that he did while he was with us. I'm getting feedback. Can everyone who's not talking please mute? Because I don't know, I'm hearing myself back and it's making me distracted. Thank you. So Matt Johnson's no longer on the select board and actually is getting worse. Is everyone muted?
I think it might be your,
It's my own?
Setup.
Oh my God, hold on, let me get through this and then I'll take my AirPod out now that my family's off to school. And now I actually don't hear it anymore. So anyway, sorry about that. So Mark Howell is our newest select board representative. Matt Johnson is no longer a select board member and therefore is no longer on our committee as the select board representative. So Mark will be with us. We welcome him. We thank Matt for all his time and energy and efforts. He was critical to some of the decisions that were made and he was great to have. So anyway, we want to welcome Mark with open arms and I don't know if you want to say hello, Mark, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but just a quick hello to the group if you want to.
Thanks, sure. I'll just say thanks for the welcome. I'm looking forward to joining this team, and I think that it's interesting that my assignment on the Concord Finance Committee was to observe the Alcott School Building Committee. So this is like ending the rebuilding of Concord Public Schools. So I'm really glad to be here and looking forward to seeing the update that Ian's about to give us.
Great. Well, thank you for the Alcott contribution as well, being an Alcott parent. I appreciate that. My kids love that school, so I'm looking forward to them going to the middle school as well. So with that, welcome, Mark. Thank you. And sorry, I forgot to do that right after we called roll. And Ian, take it away.
Great. Well, welcome, Mark. Look forward to working with you. So this is our project budget and cost summary that we're trying to get everyone familiar with. Just to recap here, we've got essentially the various categories of the budget, the construction, the architect and engineering related cost, administrative costs, including the OPM services and other specialty consultants, utility fees, that sort of thing. And then we've got FF&E, security and technology section, and then the contingency, which adds up to the various totals here. So
Ian,
first,
Ian, sorry, can I just interrupt for a second? I just want to, because we've talked hard costs and soft costs previously, and just want to remind everyone, if you go back a slide, the hard costs are literally just those top two numbers, the construction in total. So that's the bid that were received last week. That's the hard cost. That's what it costs to construct the building. Everything else is what we call soft costs, right, on top of that. So just so everyone, just a quick reminder, because not everyone lives and breathes this like you and I do, Ian. So just want to remind everyone that the hard bids were the hard costs, and everything else is soft costs on top of that to get us to the total project cost. So
that's right.
Sorry to interrupt you. Just want to give that reminder for folks who.
No worries. Thank you. So we've got this broken down by the budget amounts here. we had an initial budget amount of 100 million was the initial charge years ago. And then we've had some authorized changes for the special town meetings and the budget increases to get to the approved budget. We've got the actual costs, so costs that are committed via contracts to date. Everything else is shown as uncommitted. We have the ability to forecast costs, and then essentially totaling up the project cost to date, and showing as far as a commitment standpoint. And then this portion here shows the cash flow and what has been spent to date and what the balance to spend is. So page 2 shows the totals here, starting at the 100 million. The approved budget is 111,516. That includes the 1.5 million from feasibility and schematic design. We've committed 12.8 million to date, which is SMMA, Hill, commissioning agent, a few other services that we've procured so far. The balance is the uncommitted costs, which gets you the total project cost, checks out there. And then expenditures to date are 6.9 million, which checks out with our cash flow that I'll show you here in a minute. So that's our budget summary. Any questions? Okay. So this next sheet is the cash flow. And what we had projected to spend throughout the course of the project versus what we've actually spent. So this column here is actual expenditures. These are all the projections, which are our estimated projections each month for billings, and then the cumulative expenditures here and the estimated cumulatives here. So we are in April 2023. The billings for this month was for SMMA and Hill for $163,000. We've spent 6.9 to date. We were projecting 7.7, so just a difference in our assumptions here. We are going to adjust this. I know we've been talking about doing this. We really want to get the GC on board and get their schedule of values before we make a major adjustment to this. I do know that there were some comments, I believe in March, about just the construction projections. We made some adjustments there to show a little bit of more of a curve in the expenditures and projections for construction, but we will refine that once we have the GC on board. So that's the financial update.
A question, if I might.
Yep.
I don't know if this is for Ian or for Gail. One of your tables refers to balance to spend. Is that all projected to be spent? If you were to reference that as encumbered and unencumbered, what would it look like? Do we have unencumbered monies in the soft cost side?
So the way that we typically show this is we always tie everything out to the total project cost. So from a commitment standpoint, the uncommitted cost would be the unencumbered. So this 98.6 million is the unencumbered value. And then the expenditures also tie out to the total project cost, because we project, just for accounting purposes, we project that all of the money will be spent, with the idea that that's never the goal on a project. Is the goal is always to save money, but we project that that it could be spent, right?
So I'm guessing that the answer is we don't know to my question. We may spend it all, we may not.
Yeah, I mean, we can't.
Okay, thank you.
We can't predict that at this point. Charlie? You're on mute.
Yeah, you're muted, Charlie.
I'm wondering whether the construction number will change to reflect the bid amount. So whether these numbers in these tables will change to reflect current conditions of the bid. You've also got a number here for, I don't know whether this is the right time to discuss this stuff or not, but I just want to put it on the table. The construction contingency is also something that sits outside of the construction budget, which is fine. It's where it should be. And I just want to make people aware that we've got 4 million sitting there, to be used for various contingencies. But I'm just wondering what's going to happen to that construction budget and how the budgeting will change.
We'll get to it. We made a recommendation to the committee in the letter for award. Good questions, though. Thank you. So I'll jump into the recommendation for award here. So we've received bids last Friday. We're very pleased to report that the bids came in favorable. This is the best possible outcome that we could have had for the project. We're very pleased with these results. So hopefully you guys are pleased as well. Bids were under budget. And this is what we sent. This is what we sent last Friday, just to recap here. So we had 3 bidders. We had 5 GCs that were pre-qualified, 3 that ended up putting in bids. CTA was the low bidder at 85.1 million. These are the alternates that they priced out, alternates 1 through 5. Great Builders was the second lowest bidder at 85.7, with their alternates priced out here. Fontaine was the third bidder at 89.5 million, and their alternates priced out here. So, something to note here is the 2 low bidders are neck and neck. That's a good sign when you have bids this close. It's a very, very close race for low bid, which tells us that these are good numbers.
That was my takeaway too, for what it's worth. When I saw the numbers Friday, I'm like, oh, good. If something were to happen to the low bidder, we still have a bid that is lower than our budget, but competitive with the other ones. So that's for those that don't operate in the public bidding world. It's great news when you have a couple close to each other. That's always a good thing.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting. The alternates some of them are really close, like exact numbers, and some of them are very different. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think they carried some of the same filed sub bid numbers. The subs gave each one of them the same numbers, whereas they got different numbers for others. So this is the general bid forms. This is all the breakdown of everything. So I don't know if we want to get into any of the details here, but we provided this as part of the packet just so you guys have the breakdown of the bids. But the bid form has, acknowledgement that all of the addenda were received and included in the bid. It has the total contract price, which is the bid amount. It has the alternates, and then it has a breakdown of the filed sub bid for each general contractor. And so you get to see who exactly they carried in their bid. It's advantageous for them to carry the low bid. They don't have to carry the low bid. They can carry whoever they want, but it's more advantageous for them to carry the low bid. The filed sub bidders have the right to exclude their bids from general contractors. So there's one instance with CTA, United excluded CTA from utilizing their bid. They have the right to do that, and so they carried a different sub. And that's pretty standard for Massachusetts procurement law and chapter 149. So this is all the backup for each one of those. I don't know if you guys have any questions or comments on that, but just wanted to provide all this information for reference.
Looks like we do have a few questions. Really, guys, can you please mute if you're not talking? Because there's so much feedback today. It's like distracting. And sorry if I was muffled earlier. I took my AirPods out. Hopefully my audio is better. Pat, I see your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to take the opportunity to comment and invite us to all just take a deep breath and say, wow, this is fabulous. We've been through quite a bit as a committee, and Mark, welcome. At this point, you missed a whole lot of meetings and a whole lot of fun, and it was a whole lot of work. But the fact that we've gotten to this place and the impact of time on the inflationary aspects of construction, I think we should just all be very, take a moment to be grateful that we're where we are now today. And I also wanted to say the same, the groundbreaking, that's so exciting. We're about to be there. So that's all.
Thank you, Pat. And good reminder. This is like cause for celebration for sure. This is great news. You know, I hope that everyone feels good about the work we've done as a committee and the good, you know, debate and conversation and getting to the heart of what's really important to this building, I think was critical to getting a good number. So congrats to everyone and good job, and our professionals for doing great drawings and documents that, you know, brought us these competitive bids. So thank you to everyone.
Well, if I could just,
go ahead, Pat.
One other thing I wanted to say is I want to thank Hill for the detail on the requalification of CTA, and the scorecards were enormously helpful to me to see exactly what we're looking at in terms of our contractors. So I thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Great, thank you. Chris Popoff.
Yeah, just following up on what Pat said, hey, the fun will continue. We get to build a brand new school. That should be a whole lot of fun over the next couple of years. The other question I have, just to follow up too on CTA, at this point, do we think controversy associated with CTA is behind us and that won't affect CTA going forward on our project?
Yeah, so you guys were forwarded. There was a bid protest that was brought forth by the Carpenters Union against CTA. You guys were forwarded the results of that. There's always typically some sort of drama that happens during the bid of a large construction project. So this is just one example of that, and so the Carpenters Union protest basically had 3 points. It said that the town broke protocol as far as communications with CTA, and they shouldn't have reopened the pre-qualification for various reasons that they stated, that the Carpenters Union stated, and that they disagreed with the points that were awarded to CTA for similar project experience. So that was their case that they brought forward. There was a hearing on April 14th with basically three councils, one from CTA, one from the Carpenters Union, one from the town of Concord. And they went through, everyone stated their case to the Attorney General's office. And then they made a ruling. And so the ruling denied the Carpenters Union bid protest. They ruled in favor of CTA. They supported that the town did not break protocol. They supported that that the town, gave the right points to CTA as part of the pre-qualification process, and our evaluation of their proposals. So that's behind us now. We don't have to worry about that. And that was another set of excellent news that we got on Saturday. So.
And thank you, everyone who was involved in that. It was kind of happening behind the scenes because it was with the Attorney General's office and our professionals, town council, et cetera. But the bottom line is the ruling was favorable and we were able to open the bids and hopefully award this to them and move on. Just so everyone knows, CTA has built schools. They're building a school. They're working in Swampscott on an elementary school right now. So
Yep.
We look forward to having them part of our team. So thank you. Does that answer your question, Chris, I assume?
Yep. Good.
Great. Steve?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I had a similar question, but I also have a few others on the dollars. So just jump in the bid values and all of the different sub bid values that add up to a total that's then represented on the cover page is 85 million by each one of the bidders, the GCs. All of those values have been like double checked, right? To be sure that there wasn't a mistake in the numbers and that we aren't in a situation where CTA has a, oh, shoot moment where they need to make up some kind of mathematical error to get to their low bid value. Have Hill double checked the values?
Yeah, I mean, we've double checked everything. We went through, thoroughly reviewed all the documentation. There's more than just this. There's more backup to these bids. There's a DCAM update statement and other various documents. We go through and we do a check that each one of the bids is valid. Our team has done that. We didn't find any errors or any issues with the bids, and we were able to validate all the numbers and everything. Yeah.
Right. I just had to ask. just want to be sure.
Sure.
Right? Right.
Sure.
And the other question was similar to what Charlie Parker was getting to, is the contingency value, the 2.245 quote unquote left on the table, so to speak, from the low bid to the budget value in the hard cost line. I agree with the recommendation that we put that into the total projects pro forma, call it. Don't change the overall hard costs expectation of the project, and put that 2.245 into a contingency that's managed and to be utilized by the owner in some way, shape, or form. I don't know where exactly 70 shows up in your budget. It's down near the other contingency that
it is the construction contingency line.
It'll be into that, so it'll be okay, fine.
Yeah, that was our recommendation. Yep.
And the 2019 will just be eliminated. So the total contingency value will be generally the same within about 200,000 overall. And I agree with that entirely, and hope that the committee does as well.
Yep.
And something worth noting, because I had a community member ask me like, oh, if we don't spend the contingency, we save all this extra money, right? And I was like, assume contingency, maybe not all of it, hopefully not all of it, but there will be contingency spent. Every project, that's why it's there. Things will come up and things will be different than expected, or something will be, expected but missed. It happens. That's what contingency is for. It's intentional. And I just want to manage the expectation that we can't just assume that we're going to save that in our back pocket. It's there for emergencies and for things that come up. So assume something is going to be spent. I hope it's not everything, but every project's different.
Yeah, we have a long way to go. We have another 2.5 years of construction and close out of the project, and things happen. There are unforeseen conditions. There are reasons to spend the contingency, and that's why we set it up this way.
Exactly. In every project, like I had a project that found a abandoned, septic system that wasn't, like it wasn't properly dealt with. So things happen. That's what it's there for. And, assume some of it will be spent, and we can be judicious in how we make decisions about that. Heather.
Thanks. So first, just echoing the celebration. I'm so happy we're under budget. We don't have to go through alternates. And then the question is, I'm assuming this is minor, but Ian, can you just explain more the exclusion you said if CTA was excluded from some of the sub bids and why? Like one contractor would be excluded from a bid and what that means. Is it really common? Does it happen 10 times every bid process or okay? Why does that happen?
It's common.
It's
Okay.
common. And the subcontractor can do it for whatever reason they want. They don't really have to have a good reason.
Okay.
Maybe they got into a fist fight at the last construction site. Seriously, I've
Okay.
seen it
Yeah.
all.
They just don't want to work together.
Yeah, the law's in place to so that people aren't forced to work with one another. If they really don't want to work with one another, you can't force people to work with one another.
Okay.
Is the essence of it.
Got it.
And they can restrict to themselves too, if they do whatever, drywall as part of their GC, or like,
Right.
if they can say, I only want to work with my own team versus,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
it can kind of go both ways, just.
So it's not a red flag that means
No.
like, oh, CTA is difficult to work with. It happens regularly among contractors. Okay.
All the
It
time.
happens.
Maybe
Just wanna
someone
make
got a check late and they got upset and they don't want that contractor to, to be
Right.
late again. Like
Okay.
literally, I've seen it all, so.
Okay.
it's
Awesome.
common.
That's good.
And it's not a red flag. It's
Okay. Good. That's what I wanted to make sure. The context helps. Thanks.
totally common. You're welcome. Charlie?
Yes, at some point, we're gonna have a discussion about this 2 million, this 2.245 million, and determine where to put it and how to manage it. And I'm not saying I have an answer or a recommendation at this point, but I do think we're gonna have a discussion about this, and we're gonna have to decide how we want to handle it. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that this should go in spot A, B, or C, and that the budget should stay, necessarily in its current form as presented by Ian. I think we've got some work to do here, but I don't think today probably is the day where we want to sort this out. I'm just saying that it needs to be sorted, and we need to make a decision on it.
If you have ideas, share them, Charlie.
Well, I think that the additional 2 million is kind of a separate category of money than the 4 million that we've got in the existing contingency structure. Certainly, the 4 million is there for construction issues, and we know we're going to get those. Should the 2.2 million be set aside and put under a more sort of stringent set of conditions for its use with respect to project issues that we might encounter. If you simply add that into the existing construction contingency, you'd be increasing that amount to over 6 million. I'm not sure that's the way to do this. It's just a thought that I have. I don't feel I need to get feedback on this thought right now, but I think that this is the kind of discussion that we probably need to have. The money doesn't get turned back because it's already authorized, but the way we handle it or the way we manage it is a question that ought to be sorted.
In my experience, it shows up as its own contingency, like in a pie chart of the contingencies, and how it gets spent is under the committee's purview. So, but if you have other ideas, we're open to them and happy to have that conversation more.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll have that conversation.
Dawn, I wonder if I could pick up on your comment under the committee's purview. Now that we're in this new stage, I would hope that we can pause for a minute and discuss what that actually means for this committee going forward, because we're in a very new space in terms of our work and our responsibility. I don't mean today, but perhaps in the very near future, because we've got a lot of oversight work to do, and that was not our task before today.
What do you mean by oversight?
Well, up until now, we have been designing and budgeting a school. Now we're building a school. It's a different set of responsibilities.
I'm not sure I'm following you. Yeah.
Can I try? I think I hear what Court's saying, and I agree if I understand it correctly. Which is, Court, tell me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
Not having done this before, I could use a primer on, okay, what do we do for the next 2 years? What's our job in this next stage? Is that what you're saying too, Court, or no?
Yeah, I see our role and function actually very, very different now. Our design is in place. Our GC is in place, and now the town is going to spend the major chunk of money to execute. So I can't imagine our role is going to look the same.
Oh,
Yes,
I'll give Ian a chance to speak because
sure.
he's the professional.
Sure. So typically what we would see at this transition point is, we would continue to meet with the committee on a monthly basis or quarterly basis sometimes, provide updates on construction progress, finances, every schedule, everything that's going on with the project. But from a committee level, it's more of information sharing and progress sharing of the project as it moves along the path towards completion. So from a financial standpoint, we would have typically a smaller subgroup that would meet regularly, in this case spearheaded by Gail, the town financial manager, and probably Bob Connery as well, and it would be Hill, SMMA, and then anyone else that would be good to join that group to basically oversee the finances, review invoices and requisitions, review change orders, review all the financials of the project on a frequent basis, and make recommendations or accept expenditures and accept changes for the project from a financial standpoint.
So
And
from a practical
sorry,
level,
Court, if I may. Typically, that's called like a technical review committee. It's like a small group that has construction experience and an understanding of the finances. Obviously, Gail and Carrie, or just Gail and Bob, however, from the town financial experience level. And then like one or two people that have construction experience that understand what a PCO is, as an example, or what the background to a proposed change order means, so that it happens at a small group with a recommendation to the approval of the change order to the bigger group, so that there's not 20 people getting into the weeds about how much copper piping the plumber needs versus what he carried in his bid, as an example, right? So in my projects, they meet an hour a week or something, and then they make a recommendation to the bigger committee to say, we approve change orders 1, 2, and 3. And usually those change orders have, 5 to 10 PCOs in them that have backup, that have been reviewed by the professionals, the engineers, and the technical review committee. It's a lot of detail. It's a lot of info. So that's my experience. And then, so then it's information. So there's trust that it's been reviewed by people that know what they're doing, that are measuring copper piping and how much they really need versus how much they're carrying, to use my example. So that's my experience, and that's what projects I typically work on have. Go ahead, Court.
so as a practical matter, this committee should reform the finance subcommittee in the very near future. Would that be accurate?
It's more of a technical review committee than a true finance committee.
All right. Do we abandon our finance committee? I'm
It
just
never
trying to,
really existed in its
apropos
past
of,
form.
I'm sorry, apropos of this, what Heather and I tried to convey, I'm just trying to outline as simply as possible how we're going to reform. We don't have an active design committee, nor do we need one. We have a financial subcommittee that's been dormant. again, I just think we're turning a corner. I'd love as much clarity as we can get on how this committee turns that corner effectively.
In my experience, and Lorraine and Ian, Peter and Peter, not Fashalis, Peter, sorry, Peter Martini, are professionals in the room, speak up. But in my experience, there's only one committee, other than the building committee at a CA level. And it's the committee that reviews, you know, any changes in the cost, which include typically change orders and just look at invoices and that sort of thing.
Well, that's useful. You know, if we don't hear it, we don't know. That's a pretty major reconfiguration of how we function. So that's very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ian, Lorraine, feel free to weigh in. I'm just using my experience because.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's what I was trying to communicate as well. It's typically the bigger committee and then a technical review committee for cost matters.
Yeah, it is very common practice. And I would just say that while a lot of the work of the SBC from here until the end will be information, there will be things that we will ask you to participate in, such as when the mock-up for the building is built on site, there'll be a viewing. We'll ask everyone to come and look at the samples, the bricks, the color of the mortar, the color of the caulk. So while the design review committee, in essence, their work is complete, there will be opportunities where we'll say, building committee, we'd love your feedback, come to the site, come look at what we're doing, make sure we're all in agreement. So there's still opportunities for you to weigh in.
I'm smiling. That's really nice. I don't do that. I'm like, here's my basis of design. Here's what they provided. I love it. Or
we do it.
Yeah, good for you. That's great. I love it. I'm learning something. Okay. Thank you, Lorraine. Charlie, your hand's up. Do you still have a question?
Yes, I have a quick comment. Yeah, I think that just getting back to goals, I think we need to also keep our eye on the goal and the objective and what we really want Hill to do here. I think you may want to comment on this, Ian, but I think our goal is to build this building for 85.1 million. That's what we're attempting to do here. So we need to keep our eye on that prize, and that's what we're doing. So I think that's what our budget really is for this building at this point. I believe that is to be the case. And I just want to put that out there and make sure that we're all kind of aware that that's where we're going. So
yeah, I mean, I can speak to that, and I think you need to recalibrate your expectations here that you're going to build a building for 85.1 million, because that's not going to be the case. You're gonna this is a base bid, and that's your starting point. The goal is to not incur more costs related to construction. But like we stated before, it is inevitable, because there are things that are going to happen over the next 2.5 years in which you are going to incur additional costs for construction. So I think that needs to be understood up front. And those expectations need to be set up front so that you're not thinking that you're always going to remain at 85.1 million for construction costs. That's not going to be the case.
I said it earlier. We will spend contingency. I'm basically saying the same thing Ian is. It will cost more than 85.1. It will. Mark my words. I'll bet on it any day. There will be change orders. There will be. That's what the contingency is for.
You have the 4 million in contingency as well, though. That's construction contingencies in there for some of that, right?
That's what it's for.
That's
It's not in the 85.1.
That's above the 85 million.
It's above the 85. That's what we're saying. The contractor is not carrying his contingency. We own that bucket of money, not him. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
He's saying, according to the documents, I own 85.1, right? And we're saying, that's great. We have this bucket of money because we know something's going to change. And he's going to come back and say, I need more money to do X because you're expecting that. And I only carried Y. And we're going to find a middle ground, or we're going to say, no, we think that was in the documents. There will be conversations but at the end of the day, there will be contingency spent, and that contingency is on top of the 85.1.
But if I could just chime in, Peter Martini with Bill. Charlie, you are right on the money. One of the major responsibilities of the OPM moving forward is the usage of that contingency. in that there is a $85 million bid, and every single dollar above that the general contractor wants or is owed because he's run into some field condition, or because, sorry, Lorraine, you feel something wasn't on the documents or whatever, that
I lost Peter. Did anyone else?
I lost Peter too.
Yeah, okay. You froze for a second, Peter. Say it again.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Yep.
But you
Good.
froze for a sec. Go ahead. Repeat
So
what you were saying.
it's the responsibility of all of us to make sure that we are right on top of those dollars. That's a major, one of the major things that we're doing. And that goes to our field guy, our project manager, and everybody here. So, yep, you watch it really carefully. We know that there's going to be spent, but the key moving forward is to be really looking at that closely in detail.
And I think to reiterate, we want to spend as little contingency as we need to, but there will be some spent, I think is the realistic expectation. Does that make sense? So to be as close to 85.1 as we can, but with the recognition that things happen and unforeseen things, you know, missed things, changes in things, it's going to happen every project. Pat?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question. So I totally understand everything that has just been said, and I understand that Hill becomes our watchdog for a lot of this. I'm assuming there's a role that SMMA plays throughout the construction project to support that watchdog function.
Yeah, I can talk to that, Pat. So SMMA has oversight of the construction administration portion of the project. So during the course of the construction, we will receive questions from the bidders on clarifications on the documents. Those are called requests for informations. The acronym is RFI. We'll receive submittals that are documents that are the contractor's version of our documents that show how they're going to construct things in conformance with the documents. There will be answers to those RFIs or answers to those submittals may result in what the contractor feels is a change from what they based the base bid on. So they will submit a proposed change order. The acronym is the PCO. We might want to get a cheat sheet of all the acronyms because we're so used to using them. Not everyone is, but and then we will review that. Our team will review that. So if an architectural change comes in, our architectural team will look at it. We'll say, no, the intent on the drawings was very clear. We don't agree with you. And we'll send it back. And then there might be a back and forth. Or yes, that was not clear on the drawings. That was not, quantifiable at the time of bid. And therefore a legitimate change is due to the contractor. But we then go through that change and say whether we as the designer feel that change is fair and reasonable. So just because it is a change, it still needs to be fair to both parties. So that is our role, and the OPM then has that role as well. They'll go through the change with us and we'll send one collective response back to the contractor saying, here's our opinion, here are our comments, please review. But I think, to Dawn's point, it is inevitable. I've been doing schools for 23 years. I'd love to say I've had a project where we've never had a change order. It's not the case. Drawings are our role as an architect and a designer is to meet a standard of care. We are not perfectionists. There will be things in the drawings that bidders will find that they need that we haven't identified clearly. But our role as the architect and the way the contract is written is we are the interpreter of the contract documents. So if the intent is there and it is clear, we'll make the argument that we own it. We're also not going to be unreasonable and say, no, you should have guessed at that. So that is our job to be fair.
So Lorraine and Ian, at the end of the day, when a change order comes through, it's my understanding that the eyes that are on that change order and the people who have to sign off on that change order include Hill, include SMMA, include the town, I assume.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And do our funders have a role in this?
I don't know who you mean by
wherever we're
funders.
borrowing from.
No.
Okay, not in this case. And then all those approvals happen, the contractor notarizes the change order, I assume.
It's not a notarization. The only thing that gets notarized during the course of construction is the payment requisition, the monthly requisition.
Okay, the rec, yeah, the
Yeah, the rec
requisition.
gets notarized, but the change orders, once approved, signed by the architect, the OPM and the owner, and the designee of the owner is often, the town administrator or a designee. They get signed, those change orders, once signed, get rolled into the requisition so that they can bill against them.
And then so then it comes to the committee for a final, this is our recommendation that the technical, I'm sorry, I forgot the name of it.
Technical Review Committee.
The
Yeah.
technical review committee comes back to the committee, makes a recommendation. We have the opportunity to ask questions. But there's a lot of professional eyes on the project that brings it back to us, explains it to us, and then we have the opportunity to ask questions.
Yep. This is the whole point of hiring an OPM and an architect is you have professionals that do this day in and day out, that know what they're looking at, that work with general contractors and subcontractors. There's a process, and we're going to follow that process through and through for every requisition that's submitted, every potential change order that's submitted. We're going to follow the process, and we're going to be fair and reasonable when it comes to payment, when it comes to changes. And just to reiterate, the first line of defense is the subs submitting cost to the GC. The GC should scrutinize that, and either if it's fair and reasonable, it gets passed along to the owner, being our project team, right, with the OPM, the architect, and the technical review committee, and then we will review it and for reasonableness, make sure that it's fair and reasonable. If it needs revision, it goes back, it gets revised. If it needs to be outright rejected, we will outright reject things. If we feel that it's fair and reasonable, we will accept it, we will approve it, and we will make a recommendation for acceptance by the town.
And it's worth noting,
Yep.
all the professionals and the engineers and the sub-consultants, they're all reviewing it before it gets to that technical review committee. So the technical review committee is not looking at raw data that hasn't been checked already by our professionals. So the whole point of having professionals is that they're seeing costs on other projects. They know that copper costs X amount. If this guy's charging 2 times X, they're going to come back and say, no. I just saw unit prices on copper on another project. And that's the benefit of having professionals and engineers and sub-consultants that do this day in and day out. They're looking at it for accuracy and fairness, as Ian and Lorraine have said. So once they're there and the professionals have all said, okay, we think we're good, this seems like a reasonable number, we're in agreement that this is the change, then it goes to the technical review committee to look at the backup and have a conversation, ask questions. And then if they all agree, yes, it's fair, it comes to the full committee as a recommendation to go into a change order. Does that process make sense? So it's already scrutinized before it gets to the technical review committee. That's no one here is a professional in this field except for our professionals. And I am, but I'm not gonna play that role, right? So it's there to be scrutinized before it gets to the technical review committee. And then those guys are just asking questions, trying to understand why it's a change and is it fair, and ask our professionals questions. So that is the process. Does that make sense, Pat? Yeah, okay. Charlie, your hand's still up.
Yeah, I just ask, pushing for, continue to push for clarification here. So the 4 million certainly is the second goal that we want to manage to. That's the goal for changes and unanticipated expenses, which is fine. It's in the budget. You then have, the additional 2.2 million as a potentially separate set of monies that can be managed through a separate goal and separate process, or perhaps the same process, but as a separate set of goals and contingencies. I believe that to be the case. So 85 is what we expect to spend. If all things were perfect, we'd spend another 4 million potentially under control of this special committee, And we don't want to exceed that 4 million because we're going to be smart people and we're going to push hard. But if we discover nuclear waste in the ground, perhaps we need to tap into at some point into this additional 2 million for extraordinary requirements that are far beyond any reasonable expectation that we might have had. That's kind of my take on it.
I think we'd be looking for a new site if we did find that, Charlie. But yes, I think your point is very
see what I'm
valid.
saying.
I do. I think the way you've described it is fair and reasonable. I think that is typically how this would happen.
Thank you.
Okay. So there is some business that we need.
Chris still has his
Hold
hand
on,
up.
yeah,
his hand.
sorry.
Yep.
I was gonna call on Chris. His hand's up as well. Ian, sorry.
Yeah, just real quick. Well, thankfully, we're far enough away from the StarMet site on Route 62, apropos of nuclear waste. But putting that aside, picking up on Ian's comment at the beginning, given that you've got two bids close to each other, does that give you confidence that they're not only the lowest, they're responsive and responsible, as you say?
Yep.
And it looks like they're not lowballing and anticipating change orders. For example, if one bid had been 83 million and you had 85 and 89, might that look differently? That you say, geez, the lowest bidder has already played the point that no matter what, they're going to be change orders. Maybe exceeding, as Ian has talked about, and Lorraine, the typical unforeseen change orders that are inevitable in any big project. Is that making some sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. This would be a different discussion today if the middle bidder, Brait, was at 89 million per se. That would be a little more cause for concern that CTA was the low bidder, still the low bidder, and per mass law we would likely have to accept that bid anyways, but it would be more cause for concern about, okay, why are they so low? Why are the other two, around 89 million, and how much of a battle are we going to have for change orders during construction? So this is a much better scenario here. We have two bidders that are neck and neck, that are low. That's good. That's great. That's what we want to see.
Great. And in my experience, just so you know, if they're going to back out, they back out pretty quick. They're like math error, and then they,
Yep.
So it happens. But there's also subs and contractors that take notes as they go through the documents. They're like, I don't see this. I know they're going to need it. I don't see this, but I know they're going to need it. And they show up day one. They're like, here are all the things I think you're going to need that I didn't see in the documents. So, you kind of see everything when you build schools and public bidding work.
Yeah.
So expect it.
And it's not that easy to back out of a bid either. You really have to justify it. We had a scenario with a filed sub bidder that wanted to back out because they said they made a math error, and we looked into it, and it really wasn't a legitimate math error. It was a scenario that they just didn't do their homework, and they didn't understand the pricing, and they decided to honor their bid. And so that happens as well. You really have to prove that you made a legitimate error, a math error, to back out of your bid.
Yeah.
So
Great. Okay, I don't see any other hands. So Ian, I think you were going to try to move us forward on business.
yeah, sure. I think for the purposes of today, at a minimum here, we've made a recommendation to award to CTA. We would like the committee to accept that recommendation so that we can provide notice to CTA and get the process started. We have a pretty short window of time in which they have to sign a contract. They have to provide additional paperwork to get this process started. So we would like you guys to consider that today. There's been a lot of discussion about contingency and moving money around in the budget. Our recommendation at this point was to move the 2.2 million in budget savings to construction contingency. We only have 2 buckets of money for contingent, well, 3 buckets of money for contingency currently. So we were recommending to move that to construction contingency. We know that we've done it. We can track it as such. We have the ability to keep track of the numbers. The second recommendation and the thought here from the committee was always that if you didn't use the bid contingency, that bid contingency would be removed from the project budget. So I think that that's something that we can accomplish today as well, is to take the $2 million out of the construction budget. So we would show it as, to basically reduce the total project budget by $2 million.
Another win.
Yeah.
In my
Yes.
mind, right? We didn't need
Yep.
it. We don't
Yep.
need to spend it. 2 million, right? So,
Yeah.
and we have 2 million additional in contingency or bid saving contingency as a sub number, however we want to, allocate it. So that makes sense to me. So remove the bid contingency number from the budget. We don't need it. The bids came in low. And then take the bid savings, which is plus or minus 2 million, just under 2 million.
It's the 2.2.
2.2. Oh, beautiful. And yeah, put that under contingency, like Charlie said, in the event that something catastrophic or whatever, the need to, utilize it arises. Mark, I see your hand.
Hi, just a quick question about the sentence around deduct alternates. I'm reading that to mean that those deduct alternates are now folded into the scope of the project within the existing bid and therefore are, neither removed nor expected to affect the budget in the future.
Yeah, so to answer that, we do, the whole idea with the deduct alternates is that if we had a bid overrun, we were going to utilize those to ensure that we could proceed with the project. Because we have an underrun, we don't need to accept those deduct alternates. So we should reject them. And that is maintaining the scope in the project, because it was a deduct. We were going to take that scope out of the job. We don't want to do that. We don't need to do that. So we can leave that scope in.
Kind of a double negative.
It's,
Right? Like if you think about it like that, like they were there in case we needed to take them to get on budget, but since we don't need to take them, we're going to reject them, meaning it's all staying in the project scope. So the 85-1 includes all of those alternates in the scope. And then their numbers were to take them out as savings. So by rejecting them, you're keeping them in the scope.
Yeah, and I was asking the question just to confirm that. And I probably should have said in my introduction that I was CIO for the town and a certified project manager at one point. So the acronyms that you guys are using related to project, not to mention the fact that I worked on some of the high school from my position as CIO as well as so this is not unfamiliar territory to me, but I just wanted to make sure that it was clear to everybody else that was the case.
Mark, thank you. And glad to have your experience on our committee. It's awesome. I don't think I knew that, so thank you for sharing. Heather.
I was just going to ask, do you need a motion kind of to move what Ian said basically, and then we can officially debate it? Is that what we're going towards here, is a vote to do this?
I think you need a vote.
Yes, we need a vote. Yes.
Okay. Then
So-
can I?
You can, but I just want to make sure Charlie's question. He's the only other hand I see. Can we ask Charlie's question? And
Yeah,
then
go for it.
Yeah, I
Consider a motion?
think a vote on accepting the bid is entirely appropriate. I don't think we need to vote today on the way in which we're going to specifically handle the additional monies, the additional 2.2 that's on top. So I think you need to get going in terms of notifying the bidder and getting that process squared away. But I think that we can sit back, and think through the consequences of how we're going to basically address the management and allocation of the 2.2 that sits above the 4 million contingency. Is that okay, Ian? I mean, you don't need to know today about, rolling anything into something else, do you?
So it would be nice to make these decisions and be done with it today, but we don't necessarily have to. We're just trying to make budget adjustments on a monthly basis so that we can track towards it. So no, we don't have to do that today. The most important thing is to accept the recommendation for award and get that process started with CTA.
Well, I think that's what we should try to do. And I think we should hold the rest of it. And because there is some more discussion that we probably ought to have on that.
So Ian, on the next project report, just have a line item that's called additional contingency.
I think Charlie's suggesting that we track the $2.2 million separately, which can be done. Again, it's the same budget. It's just a matter of where you track the money.
So can that be voted on today, or do we need to have a discussion about it?
Well, what if we kind of make the motion according to the way Ian wrote it, and the 2.2 gets moved to an additional contingency, that's still its own separate line item, so that can be discussed separately at any time going forward, right? And then the 2.1 we're taking off. I mean, part of the motion should be the 2.1 bidding contingency we take off the table, and our total project cost is now 2 million less than it was or could have been.
I see Carrie's hand up, and I'd like to hear from the town on this. I'm also thinking this, I'd like to hear from Carrie before we.
Yep. Go ahead, Carrie.
Thank you. So it's actually Gail that wants to make a comment. She's in the office with me.
Hey, Gail.
Sorry, we're having computer issues. So if you see us jumping on and off different devices, that would be the why. I just wanted to chime in because I think it is important for the committee to determine how to reflect that bid contingency, because it is written in the letter that they are asking the town to sign off on. And I think it is, from my standpoint, moving forward with shovel in the ground, it would be nice to have this ironed out before we put that shovel in the ground. And it is important for us from a tracking and how we're doing it. So I'm just hesitant to utilize the memo if we don't actually have it resolved, how we're going to be tracking this specific contingency. So I think having it as the separate line item does make sense, so we can be really cognizant of the various types of contingencies. But from my standpoint, being the town representative that'll be reviewing and working through the invoices with Hill, having it resolved before the first item comes through, I think is very important for us to have it ironed out prior to executing and moving forward, because as Dawn eloquently explained, these items are coming in pretty quickly as soon as the contracts are signed. So I would be leery to wait a month or two to try to resolve how this is going to be reflected in the document.
Do you think that we can approve the award as it's written and then make these decisions about how we document the use of that contingency or whatever? But can we vote to sign this thing so that we can move forward on the project, or do we need to change the wording in this letter to reflect that that 2.3 doesn't need to be utilized and can be removed from the construction budget as planned, and that leaves it open as to where it fits into the project budget?
Can I make a recommendation, please?
Yes.
So the recommendation to award the 85 million has nothing to do with your contingencies. What they're called, how they're shown on your budget, has nothing to do. They're totally separate. CTA's contract will not list any of these contingencies. So I think what the committee needs to do today is agree with the recommendation to award so that we can get contracts signed with CTA. And what I would recommend is that he'll mock up a couple of budgets for the next meeting to show you how things will fall, and then you can discuss how you like them seen. But they're distinctly separate. The two do not occur together, except on your total project budget, which is for this town, for the town and this committee only. Sorry, Hill, I just recommended you to do work, but.
That makes sense to me.
Makes sense to me. I think it's clear we
Okay.
need to approve, we need to come to a vote to approve the award letter. We just need to do that today, so.
To award the contract, we need to award the contract.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want a motion for just that then?
Sure.
Okay, then if we're ready for that, we can still discuss it anyway. So
We
I
can still
will-
discuss it. Let's
Right,
get a motion on the table. If Court, if you don't mind, can we get a motion on the table and then we can discuss it?
Yeah, I think I could be helpful here, though.
Go for it. I can wait.
Thank you, Heather. So before you make a motion about the award letter, let's consider what Gail Dowd told us. As I understood it, she'd also like to know where the additional potential contingency money will be parked, i.e. that it exists as contingency and that it will be identified in a certain way, if I heard her correctly. So before you move ahead on a motion, I just wonder, Heather, if you're going to move on award letter only, what are we then going to do with contingency? So I hope I understood her correctly. And then there's a critical piece of this that I think deserves attention very quickly. There's the reference to shovels in the ground already. And I wonder if Mr. Parks and Mr. Texera could talk to us about any conversations they've had with the intended GC as to the schedule that we have laid out. I'd like some assurances, if there are any, that that schedule is something they've embraced.
We have not reached out to CTA because we have not made an award to them yet. We need to accomplish that today so that we can have that conversation with CTA. Ultimately, they own the substantial completion date that is in our contract. So they put in a bid and they have accepted that these dates are what are desired and what are contractually required for them to proceed with this project. So there is an acknowledgement there when they even put in a bid. So
You don't anticipate
to meet our schedule.
You don't anticipate a problem. The reason I mention it is because personally, I'm not a professional as we describe it here, but I do consider the construction schedule to be unusually aggressive. So that's why I posed the question. Thank you.
Okay, so I was gonna make a motion based on what you were showing on your screen, Ian, and I now can't see it.
Can you share again for Heather's
And
benefit
just to
everyone?
Court's point about the what we do with the contingency, we could also make a couple of distinct motions. So why don't we just take care of the awarding first, and then I'm happy to make a motion about what we do with the 2.245, et cetera, if we need to do that now.
Let's do it separately. That makes
But
sense.
let's do it separately so that we keep things just clear here. Okay, so thank you, Ian. So I move that the building committee today award the construction project to CTA Construction for their, whoops, I can't find the 85. There we go. In the amount of $85,175,000.
I'll second.
That motion.
Okay, was that Chris saying?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you, Chris. Discussion. Okay, no discussion. Let's vote. Alexa, how do you vote?
Yes.
Court Booth,
Yes.
Heather Bout,
Yes, please.
Peter Fishalis.
I'm voting yes. I have to jump off for a
Okay.
9 o'clock call. I just wanted to say thank you, Pat, and thank you, Don, for all your leadership to get us to this point. It's great that we're celebrating this victory. So thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Peter. Thanks for being here for what you could make. Appreciate it. Dawn, I'm a yes. Lori Hunter? Did we lose Lori? I know she had some things going on.
Yeah, she's got some stuff going on.
Okay, nope, that's fine. Mark?
Yes.
Thank you. Pat?
Yes.
Chris Popoff?
Yes.
Great. Charlie Parker?
Yes.
Matt Root? Did we lose Matt? We were gonna lose him at some point. He didn't specify. And Steve Stashewski.
Yes.
Excellent. Congratulations, everyone. That's huge. We have a
That's huge.
contractor.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Woo, celebrate.
Yeah, right. Off the champagne. No, I'm kidding. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. Mimosas. I don't know.
Just add it to orange juice and we're good.
Very exciting. Okay, so with that, is there anything else that we want to accomplish today for the benefit of budgetary clarification?
I'm
I
happy
just
to
have
make
to,
that next.
I'm gonna have to jump off for a 9 o'clock meeting. And I just want to clarify that can we do this, Gail and Carrie, at our next meeting and satisfy your needs? Or do we have to go through this now?
From our standpoint, I would like to have the memo, the award memo adjusted to basically match the vote that the recommendation is to proceed with accepting the bid from CTA. I think the other two items have not been discussed and determined, so I am not comfortable with having that be the permanent documentation because it is still subject to discussion and debate. And I think I don't remember, Pat, when the next meeting is. I apologize, I don't have my computer with me.
I think we're monthly at this point. Is that right? Are we typically first Thursday? Is that where I don't have my calendar open, but typically in construction, you go monthly unless something comes up. So you tell us professionals when our next meeting is. And is that
May 25th is the next.
Oh.
It's usually the third Thursday of the month is what we had.
and today was for
You
the
know.
sake of awarding bids. Is that right then?
Yeah.
That puts us back on schedule to go on. Okay.
We were
All right.
supposed to meet last week, but yes.
Got it. Yeah. All right. We were pushed a week because of the protest. Okay.
I think if we have this as one of the main topics for that meeting, it'll be before the heat of the shovel in the ground. So I believe that will give us the time to work through how to show it and how to track it. So.
Okay, thank you. So if we just remove that bit of this memo, or this memo, we've already voted that we're going to award the contract to CTA. We don't need to vote again on making this change in the memo. This memo
I'll just
reflects what we did.
provide, I would literally take this out of the memo and resend it. And you can use that as an attachment to the award. So
So it's just what we voted on today. The rest of this we'll deal
Yep.
with as business in the next meeting on the 23rd, I think is what was suggested. And that would be sufficient for Gail and Carrie from a budgetary tracking. We shouldn't have much, the next few weeks, the contractors kind of just mobilizing and, they're getting temporary things set up as far as like trailers and whatever. So I don't know.
there's not going to be much to report on the 25th.
Yeah, not a lot's going to happen in the next few weeks.
So then we can debate how this shows up in the budget on the 25th. We can not do that today.
That is a possibility. Yes.
Okay, Heather, your hand is still up. Are you? No.
Sorry about that.
Okay. So I think we're good on business as far as voting and awarding bids. That was really the crux of what we were trying to accomplish today. Is there anything else under your OPM update, Ian, that we need to address?
No, that's all.
Okay. I'm going to go to public comment, then we'll kind of regroup for next meeting, next steps, any new business, like what's going to happen at the next meeting. So public comment. I see two hands. Jeff Suarez, you're first. Hey, Jeff.
Hi. First off, I wanted to just thank the committee for all the hard work and for getting us to this point, and really for being good financial stewards for the town. I think it's pretty clear that the special town meeting and the additional budget that we approved is actually going to save us money in the long run. Especially we're already $2 million lower than the 110 based on the bid contingency not being used. So really great to see. As far as the 2.2 million goes, coming from being under the actual budget, could we go back and look at the value engineering cuts that were made? I sat through a lot of the calls where we made some of those cuts, and I know that there was a lot of disappointment in some of them. We were coming to a compromise to get to a good budget that we could put in front of the town. But I would like to see that revisited if we now have that $2.2 million, rather than just, treating it as contingency. Can we go back and say, well, actually, some of these cuts were pretty important. We want to, almost the opposite of a deduct alternate, like have the option to add them back, given the fact that we may not now have some available budget.
Possibility. So thank you for that. That does happen in projects. So that's worth our committee considering if there's interest in that. Thank you, Jeff. Christine Reynolds. Hello, Christine.
How you doing?
It's been a while. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Very good. Thank you.
Good. First of all, I think it's wonderful that we came in with the bids lower at than the 2.2 million. So I think that was a great relief to I know to me, and I'm sure to you folks. So congratulations on that. As you get ready to think about the contingency, I just wanted to share some thoughts with you. So as we went into the process, our concern and the reason for the bidding contingency, right, was we were unsure as to what inflation and supply chain impacts would have on the bids. And now we know, right? So as we pointed out, the bid contingency isn't needed. But even prior to that, we had pretty healthy contingencies built into both the construction and the owner's contingencies. So given that they were calculated as percents of where we thought the budget was going to need to be based on the special town meeting, we're already over, I think, what would be standard contingencies. So the construction contingency is now at around 4.6 million. That was up from 4 million from the initial budget, because we had increased our estimate of what the total was going to be. So now we're about 5.39 of contingency of the total construction cost, which is really quite high. So I think we're in a good position from contingency as you have it. To add the other 2.2 million of bid savings on top of it seems unnecessary to me. So what's the point of keeping it where it is? Because it really forces discipline and prioritization in the project, right? So the budget's there as a hard wall. To move it up for the 2.2 million in bid savings, to me, is not a good idea. So I would prefer you to keep it completely out of the budget or in some special category, rather than having it be available, as the prior commenter mentioned, for clawback of items that you already agreed to value engineer out. We have the benefit now of knowing where prices are. Let's keep it, right? So we have a lot of financial pressure in the town on our budgets. We saw that through the discussion on the school budget, and we know what's happening with taxes. So my arguments would be, keep it in a special place that it can only be touched if there's extraordinary purposes. And I would actually put it off to the side and not include it in the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Dean Banfield.
Hi, Dean Banfield, 73 Walden Terrace. I want to just kind of move the discussion in a different direction, but stay sort of focused on these contingencies. When we, and as Christine just pointed out, when we constructed the budget, all the way along, we used a 5% number to build our construction contingency. Adding an extra 2 million to that bucket is going to need some very special separate line item, in my view. It needs to be kept as in case of emergency, break glass. You need to create a process around how you even get near that, because those are savings that we gained. Everything going into the bid is literally just a guess. As we say, we have the 60% guess, we have the 90% guess, and then we have the actual project. So as we guessed, we created a bunch of numbers that had enough buffer all around them so that we could get a successful result. We've gotten a successful result, but our guesses were too high. So now we have to take that savings and put it in a place where it's separately accounted for, and you really can't get at it without a very discrete process to get at it. I love the committee to develop some way to get at that. So that's my view of that. As my second question, though, is that's a comment. I have a question, and that is, what is the process beyond, we have 4 million plus in construction contingency, projects going along, and you're reaching a nice, healthy buffer where you feel like we're getting down the skids, we're going to have extra money in the budget to, what is the process behind using that for extra stuff as you're moving the project towards its completion and saying, well, we have extra stuff. Why don't we build a nicer amphitheater, or why don't we do this, or why don't we do that? We're not going to use our contingency, so let's spend it. Is that something that's normal? Is that something you just do in a project? I'm very interested in how that would work.
I'm not sure we always answer questions, but I'm happy to address that in my experience. And I have a project that considered an additional security feature, given some of the security issues around schools, and they had extra money. They're headed towards the end of the construction, and they knew they weren't going to spend all their contingency on all these unforeseens. They were far enough along that there was a comfort level. It was brought to the bigger committee, these security features, additional security features, and the full committee voted to spend the money on the security features, as an example. So that's a case where they were, 90% along in construction, had money still left, and felt like their building could be more secure for the students in their town. And without getting into specifics because it's sensitive, they spent the money on the security features, and now they feel good about their building. So, and it's not that they didn't feel good, it's that they didn't think they could afford it originally. And now, because they had savings and contingency, they opted to add that back in. That's an example. It could happen. It does happen. It's common. But you typically wouldn't do that at the start of a project because you're unsure what you're going to find in the meantime. So
thank you for that, Dawn. I guess my follow-up, just as a comment, is I would not like to see this budget savings that we have accrued used in that way at all. It's my opinion, it should not be used in that way. So that's just my opinion.
Thank you.
If I could just interject that, we're going to have a whole meeting to talk about this in a couple of weeks. And I think these are really good questions, and it's a good, we need to have an understanding about how we're going to approach the building of the project, but I just don't think we can respond and answer all of these questions today, but we will have plenty of time to do it at our next meeting. So please share your questions, but I'm going to suggest that we not go into detail on these right now.
That's my fault, Pat.
No, that's not your fault, Dawn. You were being nice and answering a question, but
I understand.
I want to respect people's time, and I think this is a bigger discussion than to feel rushed to get through it. So if people have specific questions that we can log and make sure we return to on our May 25th meeting or whatever it is, please, we'll do that.
Great. Thank you, Pat. And Christine, your hand's still up, but I took your comment. So if you have another one, drop it and come back. But I might get your name wrong. Shari Barzun? Oh my gosh.
That's very good.
I'm sorry.
Very close. Shari Barzun. Good morning, everyone. My name is Shari Barzun. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Concord Carlisle Human Rights Council. The DEI Commission, as well as the Robbins House, are, I think, taking the lead on this, but we wanted to add our support that the new Concord Middle School be named the Garrison School in honor of Ellen Garrison. I won't go into all the reasons that we support this, but I will quote Rob Morrison from his opinion letter in the Bridge last week. He's a current council member and a past co-chair. The names of the Willard, Thoreau, Alcott, Peabody, and Sanborn schools remind students of the contributions of past Concordians, and because of Ellen's courage, place in history, and dedication to education, it is fitting to name the new school in her honor. I just have two questions, which I will ask now, and you can address as you will. The first is, under the town's policy for naming of town property, I understand it to be the select board that names public property. Does this committee bring recommendations for names for the new school to the select board? Or should those of us who have recommendations expect to be present at a select board future meeting? And the second question, an extension of the first really, would you let us know the process going forward by which the town will determine the name of the new school and a timeline that we can expect? Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. I think we'll save that, but I'll just chime in that in my experience, building committees don't name schools, but that's just my experience. And we can, as a committee, address that. So thank you for your comment. I appreciate it. Wilson Kerr.
Hey guys, good morning. And once again, I think people have said this, but congratulations on where we are. This is truly unbelievable. A huge sigh of relief when those bids came in. I just want to make a couple comments, specifically reacting to something that Christine said. We have the $4 million that's usual and normal built in for construction contingency. We now have the overage of the bid contingency, and now we find ourselves with a $2 million that was the actual underage on the bids. And I think we should look to what happened this last Sunday. You know, we had the finance committee taking a position against a school budget. We had the backing of that position by the select board. And then we had 700 or 800 people spend an hour rebuking that. There was not a single person that spoke against this proposed budget by CPS. We had 4 votes from the town for this middle school, and the last one was about 90% at town meeting for the 110 million. I'm a frugal person. I believe we should recognize savings whenever we can. We have the bid contingency plus the 4 million to play with. But I strongly urge this body to also look to what the town is supporting regarding potentially reallocating that $2 million if the rest isn't used at the right time in the right way based on their expertise back towards adding some of the things that were cut out during that long and arduous process. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Wilson. Any other public comments? Christina, I see your hand again. Is this a new comment?
It's a new comment. Yeah. So just to remind the committee that the ballot vote, which was the larger vote on the special town meeting, was actually 60-40. It was majority for sure, but it was not overwhelmingly in support of spending additional money. The $2 million in bid savings is a savings. Let's take it. And so my comments are just that. I think people really would like to see you be, as I hope you plan to be, judicious with this money. So
yeah, sorry, just a quick follow-up.
A
quick follow-up. The 2 million bid contingency. I agree with Christine. What I was talking about is actually the underage under the actual.
So am I, Wilson, but it's not a debate between you and I. So am I.
I'm going to just stop it here. We've heard both of you. Please stop. Please. We're not going to go back and forth on public comment. Thank you both. Dean, did you have something new to comment on?
Yeah, just very quickly.
And again, we're not going to debate this. This is for our committee.
No, it's not debating this.
Okay.
Very quickly. The committee had an opportunity going into the bid to offer alt deducts and a combination of alt deducts and alt ads. We don't have any alt ads on the menu. We could have done that, chose not to do that. There was some kind of strategic reason why just using alt deducts was the way we were going to go. So if we had some things that we thought were super critical, we could have added them as alt ads in the event that we ended up where we have ended up. We did not use that strategy, so I don't recommend going forward and just willy-nilly adding things back in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. No more public comment. Christine, your hand's still up, but I'm going to assume it was your prior comment. Awesome. Thank you. Steve, public comment? Steve's phone? No?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to unmute. I recall that we could only choose ads or deducts, and that was the legal process.
It's actually not. It's just cleaner to do it one way or another. Trust me.
Okay, thank you.
The mixing and matching doesn't always provide competitive savings or ads.
Okay, my misunderstanding.
Yep, it's not legal. You could mix and match, but we don't need to re-debate that. I think it was the right thing for us to do, to have deducts, because we did get competitive numbers, so. Okay, any more public comments? Last call? No? Okay, we're gonna go to new business, next steps. I feel like we covered new business. One thing I want to cover in the next meeting is this technical review committee, and then also the discussion on the 2.2 bid savings, not the bid contingency. We all agree that that's not part of the budget, but the savings received from the bids being lower than our budget. So for me, those are going to be agenda items on our next meeting. Is there anything else, new business, that anyone needs to bring to the committee's attention?
I mentioned project timeline, but I'm sure we're going to get an update in any event.
Yep. Yes. Thank you for that. Anything else? If not, next steps, professionals. We talked about our next meeting being the 25th, was it? Is that Thursday, May 25th?
Correct.
3 weeks from now. We have a couple agenda items already. At some point, I'm sure we'll hear from the CTA and their team. But is there anything else anyone needs to talk about next steps and next meeting? I assume that's 7:30, Thursday, the 25th.
Correct.
Okay. Any last words from anyone? If not, I think we're losing people left and right because it's getting to be after 9 o'clock. So motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. My experience, you don't need to call roll, right? We just disband. So thank you. Congratulations. Appreciate everyone tuning in today, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.